It's working. Okay. Never be parted from the three possessions. Basically, those three possessions are, as we will see here, whatever activities that we do, we create through, physical, verbal, and mental. These three kind of channel or ways. So, whatever activities that you do, physically, verbally, mentally, make sure that those are all virtuous, positive. And so that's what's the point is here. You should not cease to perform virtuous physical actions, such as acts of service towards your spiritual masters and the three jewels, prostrations, and circumambulation. You should not cease to recite the refuge formula or recitations pertaining to meditational deities with your speech. And in your mind, you should nurture and never be parted from the awakening mind and its associated practices. Among these three, of course, the most important and most dominant one is the practice of mind. As His Holiness often says, the practice of mind generating thoughts of all like compassion, love, kindness. That is the most important. And although it is not saying that others too are less important, as we see here, all three should be performed. But among these three, the most important or the most dominant one is of the mental. And it is again obvious, we don't need to kind of quote from text, but we know through our own experiences, both physical and verbal positive activities that we appear to be doing, but it can, it doesn't necessarily has to be conclude with positive action or or speech. So sometimes we know from our own experiences when you are reciting a mantra, so verbally you are reciting something, but when you somebody doing something negative, you immediately have a thought that he or she shouldn't done that. Then based on that, you can have maybe hatred or anger generated in your mind while verbally you are reciting some mantras. And likewise, physically, whether you are circumambulations or prostrations or doing some, but mentally you can remain kind of active with negative thoughts. So therefore, talking from the karmic creation, physical and verbal could be, although they appear to be positive, but there is no really guarantee for that. It could be a lack of any of three components: preliminary, actual act, and then conclusion, part of the karmic action. But the mental, why it is important is, first of all, when you focus something on mentally, there is no distraction. You are engaged in that positive act sort of like 100%. And then second point is that when you engage with mental action, it is so powerful because it is complete in a sense. It has right preparation, actual act, then conclusion all together, sort of intact and complete. In the document of dependent arising, it talks about karmic action that is created by thought or mind has necessarily be both executed as well as accumulated. So execution and accumulation of karma happens at the same moment, while in speech and body, it's a sequential. First you have to generate a thought, then you go to the next stage, then you go to the next stage. So as we mentioned before, if you have a good motivation, your actual act won't be so good. You might be missing something. If you have a good motivation and good action created, but then at the end you might have no dedication, something lacking. So it is sequential. It's not in terms of timing. Mentally, it's extremely kind of quick, and in a moment it kind of completes all three components together, and also from the karmic different type, it is executed as well as accumulated. So it happens at both time. And especially for practitioners or followers of the mind training, it becomes more important and crucial. There's a kind of common kind of advice or expression saying that in the gathering, look out for your words or your mouth, but when you are yourself, look out and watch your mind. So when you are alone by yourself, it's always good to kind of examine how your thoughts are arising, and because by doing that, you are the one that is getting a benefit. And maintaining this active state of mind or thought is really kind of helpful in this mind training practice. The mind training practice will be really helpful in maintaining our kind of active state of mind, and because of this kind of habit, you always become kind of mentally active. There's thought going on, and you are aware of it, and you are kind of mindful. So this could be also beneficial in kind of when getting old. Here, just talking about probably dementia. When people get old and memory loss, and so he has never kind of seen, never heard when back in India among the monastic institution. Probably the monks, they kind of engage, of course, verbally and physically, but mentally they are kind of try to active as much as they can. So even when we age physically, but mentally we can still maintain that kind of alertness or activeness. And here His Holiness was asked in one of his interview, kind of in the television, the interviewer kind of surprised when there is question about what His Holiness does for fun, because he's not watching TV, he doesn't do fun that is fun for ordinary people. And then he kind of surprised, and what do you do for entertainment fun? And His Holiness mentioned there is a lot of fun thing, entertain that you can do with your mind, you know. So that could be also kind of beneficial in terms of physical or health wise. We'll stop here for today. Any questions you can ask? Yeah.
I have two questions. First question is, the Holiness Dalai Lama mentioned that we should meditate on the wisdom of realizing emptiness. So how is that translated into daily practice for us? And second question is, for those of us who are still living at home but would like to learn the daily practice of the monastic monks and nuns, how should we start doing that?
저니 있어. 저 당보대 대인사 점그럼 지게네 돈이 걸 고무고 되는 송도사 다지게 고무고선데 니마니마 갈로 나로 다또 냠내 체나 돈이 곰다 간도 고무고 해서 니워들안에 더 타바다 아니 된서 샵도 중에 냠내 니마니마 체셔라 디타 미게게 갈로고래 소소 나라인 지 니마니마 냠내 체다한테 간데 쳐고래 체단도 쇼래로도
동이 원 연구름지 공부에 공부를 상대 그가 전부야. 원장 방부 직 어전지도 동이 신디 동반이 세네 간지 잘하는 뭐나를 자매를 소리지. 근데 동바까지 쓴 싸우는 시고나 되는 말에 동이 이게 가장 원수인 것 같아. 가서 툭툭지 가지 더 삼다. 아니 직 말한주 남줄대라 하늘에 두바지 난거래. 나이나 추투바지 랑이나 추투바지 나 덴바투바지 나라신 좀 되는지 되는지 난거래. 이게는 때문에 두바 소바 먹고도 되는 좀 되게 되니고 셀나 참고 그러냐 말이야. 어제 대속간나 좀 삼월달도 시체베치는 데이나 대속간나 보면 조금 난 누구 알았어. 원숭이 인진 조금쯤에 왜 미순대야 지금 말했어. 그래서 삼월달도 저 조금만 차고 왔대. 삼월 두번 중살래 그랬어. 그래서 삼월달 말했어.
When His Holiness talks about meditation and emptiness, of course, one should have what emptiness means. It doesn't, of course, mean here kind of like a mug being empty of tea, or So what is that? What do you mean by empty? When we say empty of what? What are we negating here? And understanding object of negation, the appearance that we ordinarily have. When we look out, things exist, from its objective side, self-sufficient, intrinsic, existence, true existence, or that kind of, appearance that things exist without relying upon any factor and causes. They exist independently by itself, self-sufficiently. However, that is not the case. So it's simply kind of reflecting on contemplating how things exist in reality. That reflection, contemplation itself is a meditation. When we say meditation, it doesn't necessarily has to be always single-pointed and sitting and closing your eyes. You just examine, analyze. And that also helps, as mentioned before, kind of make your mind, active and become more further kind of, creative and helpful. So that's sort of one way of doing a practice of meditation on emptiness.
네 진짜가 가서 땐 싸우는 책임이다. 자, 최진 간지 쳐받아 내 거기는 투투 좀 되긴지. 뭐전 책이도 어쩌나 가지랑 때리기.
Whatever things or phenomena, say like vase or pillar. When we look at those objects or any thing, as mentioned before, when we say empty of intrinsic or independent or true existence, and as mentioned before, when we look at those things or object, the reality of the existence is lack of that intrinsic nature or independent or self-sufficient, and that is the reality. That is the reality or truth on that phenomena. So and seeing other way, independently, self-sufficiently, intrinsic, and those are all what we mean by object of negation, and try to negate those kind of mistaken or distorted appearance. So when we say meditation, as mentioned before, it doesn't mean only to a single-pointed meditation. There's always the another meditation, analytical meditation, and of course for meditation on emptiness, it's good to start with actually study more understanding of what we mean by emptiness, object of negation, and why or how empty. So His Holiness also mentioned one time, and as we discussed in the earlier session, as Buzz we mentioned, we those who are engaged in single-pointed meditation for a long time sometimes have a effect of being not so kind of maybe sharp, or maybe dullness, or maybe not much feeling. But on the other hand, there could be the impact of not having enough analytical part of the meditation. The second part, for fully ordained monks and nuns, unlike lay people, they need to think about, their vows that they have received or that they have committed, and then they have their own discipline that needs to maintain within the community of a monastery, and then they also, based on their livelihood, how they kind of react or how to interact with the lay community. So these are the three kind of big points that they needs to be kind of taken consideration of.
ramju kepa chigi ramju moji la ne pe ratu mo choni na pune ji la khekhang chigi timpo me ba ani cheshe ya no swa te ni kondu man ji che yuri mo de ta ni tsa ni chobo ma te so ta ni siba sangi jibe wong de rajingi kana ma thoba ma ni jewang de tuwa ni ba bo ba te jibe
모란 제들 가서 저 저보다 아니는 속다 냠년 제라고 그랬지 칸도 제나 들리시 저 근데다 미디어 가르치 줘야 돼요 요래라도 되지
어떻게 전 럼중기 때 빼나 된지 대조람 럼중기 냠는 추가 초가 막 지난 동안 보고 냠을 라고 다 미리케디 제 특별 빼면 그러게 좀 부도와 좀 차세 거라서 롬종지 애니페 윤두 장기 semle shuda tang teso kuwa so tumo che de wa jitin pe pena ni muji se ina ngala nyeba jibe kana ma do nyeba jita rajin kana ma do nyeba yo wa re 그런 좀 무지나 rajin kana ma do nyeba inga tu tumo cha de chukele ru male ru 같이 맞아 수지나 소된 강가래 용에 차 어떻게 맞은 되나 티 이거 냠내려 봐 맞아 강가 냠내 이때는
there are like specific vows or discipline that monks and nuns are committed to what we call constructed or constructed vows, such as at dawn or dusk, the one female nun by herself is not allowed to give teaching to opposite sex, and that is kind of not allowed. And same can happen with the otherwise, one female and monk, by themselves. And in generally, there are lots of things, of course, that lay people can do, and many of these are basically common between, whether one is ordained monks or not, with lay people, such as, recitation, chanting, circumambulation, prostration, and constantly kind of, contemplating, looking after your thought. And when we create, for example, act of killing, by ordained monk or by lay people, in terms of karmic action, they create the same result, act of killing. So there's no differences, and there are lots of practices that can be done equally or commonly by lay people, just like fully ordained monks and nuns. Kurve shingam de penda de wa malu jongwe ne chere sewa tenzin gyaso shave sede ambato tenjo ji chambe pavu jidra kempo anda kondo sambo de andish deda gunge je son da lo jenge wa deda tamje rabdo ngo te sum shave gyawa tamje ki ngo wa kan la chodo ngo da shin ge we za wa de gun ja sambo junje rabdo ngo wa ke the land encircled by snow-white mountains, the source of all happiness and benefits, flows in your person, Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, remained under samsara ends. Just as a bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and Samanta about to do, so now I too dedicate these merits to train and follow in the footsteps, as all the victorious Buddhas of past, present, and future, praise dedication to the Supreme. So now I too dedicate this source of my merit for all beings to her better corrections.